of a network. Our Portuguese Mozambican chapter translated this for me a few months ago. So the information is a bit old, so I will update it as I speak. But majority is there, and it will be much easier for you to follow because it's quite a lot of writing, a lot of talking. Okay, so the ARTerial Network. Why the ARTerial Network? Why do we need to exist? Well, let's contextualize Africa just briefly. There's some stats over there you can read. We all know this. We're all familiar with these statistics. 51% live in poverty, 50% of children not in school, 1 in 7 African children die by the age of 5, African maternal mortality, 1 in 30 women, etc., etc. Other indicators, about 1/3 of countries are electoral democracies. Only 16 of 54 countries feature below 100 in the corruption monitor, 4 below 50. Sustained economic growth of 4% actually, plus, for 15 years. But poverty is still not reduced significantly. And of course, as we all know, Africa's share of global creative economy is less than 1%. So some conclusions. The Millennium Development Goals, and thus the cultural dimension of development, is most relevant to Africa. Economic growth is not the problem, but distribution of wealth is the problem. Human rights and democratic freedoms are key challenges, and Africa stands to benefit the most from cultural diversity. Okay, so a little bit about the history. ARTerial Network was launched in Senegal on Gorée Island in 2007, where artists came together to talk about how to revitalize Africa's creative and cultural assets. And they basically came up with a few recommendations, and the key question was, is finance the real problem? Or are there other key challenges that one can address? And they said, no, finance is not necessarily the problem. It's lack of information. Artists don't even know what's happening in their own country, and they don't know what's happening in the country next door to them. So therefore, a network needs to exist. So a network was born. At the second biannual conference in Johannesburg in September 2009, 132 delegates from 64 countries came together, and they adopted the ARTerial Network Constitution. So now it was a formal network with principles, articles, clauses, voting, electoral processes, etc. The Continental Secretariat we're a very small team, we're based in Cape Town, and we have 2 regional secretariats, one in Kenya, in East Africa, and one in Mali, in West Africa. We have currently more than 3,000 members, and we have more than 10,000 people on our database. These are individuals and organizations. So we're essentially a civil society movement. Okay, there's the Secretariat. We recently got a new Secretary General. Her name is Wafa Balgasen from Tunisia. The outgoing Secretary General, maybe some of you have heard of him, is Mike van Kraan, but I haven't included him on the Secretariat. He's now outgoing former Secretary General. Myself, General Manager, South African. We've got Espera Donovosi, Project Manager and Translator from Benin. We've got Nancy Onyango, Communications and Marketing Manager from Kenya. We've got Lasana Igo Diarra from Mali as the West Africa Secretariat, and we've got Maggie Otieno as the East Africa Secretariat of Kenya. So we have a very diverse complement of staff, and a lot of these staff members we met through the network. The steering committee, also very diverse. We have 2 regional representatives per region. So we have Koko Amatefo. So a steering committee is essentially a governing board. So all the strategic decisions go through the steering committee, and at the Secretariat we just operationalize the recommendations. So we've got Koko Amatefo from West Africa. We've also got Adel from Morocco, North Africa as the deputy chair. Patrick Mulikareza, who's from the DRC, and he's currently actually consultant to his government on a new cultural policy for DRC, so we're very proud of him. Agran Odero, East Africa, Kenya. Abdurrahman Salem from Mauritania. Zalani from Malawi. Telescore from Cameroon. He works for Transparency International at the moment. Tali Adekunle from Nigeria. Nadia from Rwanda. And Evaristo from Mozambique. He's our treasurer. Okay, so just a few pictures. This is a panel discussion on a hotly debated subject about a painting of our South African president who wants to sue the artist. So artists came together to debate about freedom of expression versus human dignity. So it was a very interesting debate. That's still the same debate. That's the former Secretary General Mike van Graan. This was our Creative Economy Conference in Nairobi last year, our first. Adel from Morocco, North Africa as the Deputy Chair. Patrick Mudakareza, who's from the DRC, and he's currently actually consultant to his government on a new cultural policy for DRC, so we're very proud of him. Agran Odero, East Africa, Kenya. Abdurrahman Salem from Mauritania. Zalani from Malawi. Telescore from Cameroon. He works for Transparency International at the moment. Tade Adekunle from Nigeria. Nadia from Rwanda, and Evaristo from Mozambique. He's our treasurer. Okay, so just a few pictures. This is a panel discussion on a hotly debated subject about a painting of our South African president who wants to sue the artist. So artists came together to debate about freedom of expression versus human dignity. So it was a very interesting debate. That's still the same debate. That's the former Secretary General Mike van Graan. This was our Creative Economy Conference in Nairobi last year, our first African Creative Economy Conference. And here is Dunya Ben Slimane from Morocco, who's basically trying to advocate for the release of Mahmoud, who's a rapper from Morocco who was jailed by the government. So that basically says free Mahmoud. Okay, that's Joy from Kenya doing a keynote. Just some delegates. That's the launch of the Mozambican chapter, and I was there, and they translated this presentation actually for us. This is a training workshop in Johannesburg with the representatives from all over Africa on train the trainer. I'll tell you more about that as we go on. That's our General Council meeting, which is a meeting of all the members of our network, all the representatives from each country coming together to talk about the strategic plan of the network and the 3-year plan of what to do next. Okay. That's just some publications. I've got a few publications which I'll talk to you about, but the one pictured here is called Adapting the Wheel, Cultural Policies for Africa, which I'll explain more about. And then the last picture is Salma from Egypt. She's an activist. She's probably still in Tahrir Square as we speak, and a very vocal anti-establishment theatre practitioner. Okay, so I'll take you through 7 aims of the network. Aim 1, we aim to build effective, sustainable networks across arts disciplines to play advocacy roles within countries, on the continent and internationally in support of the African creative sector. That's our central tenet, to organize the sector, to establish a network where information flows more easily. So to date, we have 40 national chapters in 40 countries. Not all of them are very formal, some are dormant, some are very active, and we are now at a stage where we've rolled out the network, and now we need to consolidate and concentrate on monitoring and evaluation of the activities and the efficacy of each network. So it's an achievement, of course, but we need to be realistic about the effectiveness of our network. We also established networks of networks. So we've initiated an arts journalism network. As you know, media is very important for advocacy and for spreading the word about arts and culture. And there's a lack of training and capacity and critically analyzing art on the continent. So this journalist network will contribute to this dialogue. We've also got, it says there we're about to launch an arts festivals network, but we have launched an arts festivals network already. We have 160 members, which are 160 festivals. We in fact have catalogued 600 festivals on the continent. So we're going to produce a directory of all the festivals, when they're happening, where, are they biannual, are they annual, to create a network so that festivals themselves can share information, so we can create regional markets and also market the festivals so that more international visitors and locals can know about these festivals. So all these activities feed in one way or another into the aims and objectives of the Cultural Diversity Convention. I'm not going to make those links for you, but they will resonate with you as you listen to the various activities. Aim 2 is to collect and distribute relevant information. Of course, as I said earlier, ICT is really important for this. We have a bilingual newsletter in English and French. It's been going on since 2009, and we've also got a comprehensive website, our organizational website. On this website, we've also tried to create spaces for each chapter. So each chapter, if there's an activity or a launch or photographs, they can use this as a mini site for themselves. It will become heavy for us eventually, but at the moment, this is our solution. We also have a information portal called artsinafrica.com. And because of the digital divide and not everybody being able to access internet, we've also produced a publication. It's in alphabetical order, it's in country order, there's actually quite a nice section called Africa by Numbers. So there's Human Development Index, the Corruption Index, GDP, population. So it's a very nice handbook for a quick snapshot of what's happening on the continent. But of course, this is just the tip of the iceberg, and we encourage all our chapters to create models or books like these per country. So the DRC, again headed by Patrick, he's creating a book based on this model for his country. So we try and, from a continental level, create best practice, initiate ideas so that others can emulate them. We also commissioned papers, we published them on the different policy themes, and we want to do them every year. It's not always possible. You need funding to produce the books and to edit them. So this is the plan, to do this on a more regular basis. Aim 4, this is probably the most difficult aim to realize, is to help to build national, regional and international markets to distribute African cultural goods and services and enable African artists to generate income. The first thing that we did do, and it's quite a relevant one, is the African Festivals Network, which we have launched. In fact, there's a website called afrifest.org. We also did some research into how to create international markets for cultural tourism. In fact, my first assignment when I started working here in 2010, I was sent to Zimbabwe to put together a cultural program. It was interesting. The challenge is how do we create these maybe joint venture models where we can actually generate income for artists. We also launched competitions. We had a very successful competition called the Poetry Competition, and we received 300 original scripts in all different languages. And again, because of partnerships and networks, we had a partnership a theatre company in Poland, a theatre company in the UK, and a theatre company in South Africa. And the winners, well, basically they read all the plays, they analyzed them, and then the winners would win dramaturgical workshops, and they were also able to perform their plays overseas. So that was really good, and it's helping to create another level of excellence from the continent. Aim 5, don't worry, there's only 2 more. Aim 5, to facilitate the training and development of human resources required to create and distribute African cultural goods and services. So basically this is capacity building. We did this through, basically the network actually, the bedrock of the network started through our advocacy workshops. We call them winter schools because the first one was done in winter in Cape Town. And so we did one in Mali, in the heat of Mali, but we still called it a winter school. And we did it in Mali, and we did it in Morocco. We also had training workshops in arts journalism, and we also produced toolkits. These toolkits are on arts marketing, fundraising, arts advocacy, and networking and project management. And now we've got a 3-year training program where we are doing train-the-trainer programs, inviting people to learn how to analyze these toolkits, how to digest them, how to package them, and how to teach others the value of the contents of all these toolkits. So this was directly as a result of the Advocacy Winter School. It tells you step by step how to create a network. So this is based on our case study, how to write a constitution, how to perform elections, how to put an advocacy campaign together, how to lobby government, how to talk to media, and so this is a very useful tool for us activists, especially when it comes to the convention. Number 6, quickly, to mobilize resources. Of course, we've been able to mobilize resources at a continental level. Now the challenge is how to make these in-country networks sustainable. So we've devised a sustainability plan. It's not an easy plan, but it's based on entrepreneurship and on innovative models. So we've already tested some of these ideas, but we still have a very long road to go. But it's a very necessary road to travel, since a lot of we don't want to depend on international resources too much. And number 7, the last one, is to improve the working and living conditions and defend the rights of artists. So we've got an interesting, not a campaign, but a project called Art Watch Africa, kind of like Human Rights Watch, but it's focused specifically on freedom of expression violations. We hired a few researchers through the network to just give us a sort of a broad mapping of what's happening on the continent. Now we're in the process of raising some additional funding to go to the next phase, which is about launching the website and to sustaining, to make sure that the stories come in, that they're legally sound, and so that we can put more international pressure on what's happening to artists in country. And then, yeah, our key funding partners are there. They've been with us since the beginning. And our future plans, I mentioned the African Creative Economy. We had one last year. We're having one in Senegal this year, in November, 14th to the 16th of November. A very important gathering because it also is our business meeting. It's called our General Council, where we are hoping to have all 40 chapters present to take the network forward for the next 3 years. And that's about it for the network. There's some photographs again. And at the very end is our steering committee. And thank you.